They told me 3 days ahead that an audit team was coming, which should have told me something by itself. Vendré inspectors do not announce themselves to equipment they respect. They announce themselves to equipment they intend to count, catalog, and dismiss in front of witnesses, and then they go home and write a report that says the matter is closed. I run the shop we call the Boneyard, which used to be a Vendré forward depot before the Enclave took it and never gave it back. Under the armistice terms, they get to walk through twice a year and look at what we've done with their condemned stock. Twice a year, they leave annoyed. I've stopped finding it interesting. I find it tiring, the way you find a leaking pipe tiring after the 40th time you've patched it. The depot itself still has their bones in it. Their corridors run narrower than ours at the shoulder and wider at the floor, built for a gate none of us walk. And we never bothered widening them because the work happens at the benches, not in the halls. Their old cataloging glyphs are still stenciled over every rack, faded now, and under each one, we've stuck our own handwritten tags, because their system tells you what a thing used to be, and ours tells you what it's worth now. 2 languages on the same shelf. Nobody's gotten around to picking one. The team that came that spring was smaller than usual. 1 assessor, 2 technicians, and a recorder who never said a word the whole visit. The assessor's name was Threll. She was precise in the way their engineers are precise. Every motion accounted for, nothing wasted, nothing curious. She walked the rows of our stock with her hands folded behind her back and didn't touch anything, because touching things that have been formally rendered is, in their doctrine, a small superstition against contamination. I respect that. I don't share it. This entire wing is listed as non-functional, she said, at the 3rd row. Decommissioned to specification. You understand the specification exists so that it cannot be undone. I told her I understood it fine. Rendering, in Vendré supply doctrine, isn't damage, it's design. When a unit retreats and can't carry its heavy material, the doctrine requires the material be deliberately broken, in a certified, irreversible way, before it's left behind. Burst the regulator core, fracture the housing seam, scour the control wafer with an EMP pulse calibrated to their own factory tolerances. Not so it can't be fixed by an enemy, so it can't be fixed by anyone. No factory on either side carries replacement parts for something built not to be replaced. That's the whole point of rendering. It turns a weapon into a fact you can walk away from. I didn't argue with any of that. I just asked if she wanted to see what we did with it instead. She said yes. The way you say yes to something you've already decided is beneath you, which is the only way I ever get anyone from her side to actually watch. I took them to the bench. I keep 3 things on it that I don't keep anywhere else: a loop, a logbook, and patience, which is the part nobody asks about. I pulled 3 units off the rack, 3 separate serials, 3 separate rendering dates, 2 years apart, none of them from the same retreat. Threll read the tags herself before I touched anything, because she didn't trust me to read them honestly, which was fair. All 3 were individually cataloged as beyond certified repair. All 3 were, by her doctrine, dead. I told her that was true. Each one, alone, was dead. I wasn't going to fix any of them. I was never going to fix any of them. What I was going to do was take the 1 whole regulator core left in Unit 1, the 1 intact housing seam left in Unit 2, and the 1 control wafer that survived the scour in Unit 3, because the scour pattern on that particular pulse always misses a corner, every time. It's a flaw in the calibration they've never patched. And put those 3 surviving pieces into 1 frame. Not a repair, a marriage. 3 corpses, 1 set of organs that still worked, 1 patient. It took 40 minutes with them standing there. I talked while I worked, because the silence made the recorder nervous, and I am, if nothing else, considerate of recorders. I told her plainly, nobody on our side designs anything from scratch anymore. We don't have the foundries for that, and we never will. What we have is your discard pile and a deadline, and it turns out a discard pile, read closely enough, contains almost everything you need, just never all of it in the same box. When I closed the housing, I had 1 cannon. Whole serial wouldn't match anything in their database, because it wasn't supposed to exist. Threll had brought her own test. I want to give her that. She came prepared to disprove me, which is more than most of them do. She'd had her technicians haul in a slab of their own current issue hull alloy, factory fresh, The kind their certification board signs off on specifically because nothing short of a factory weapon punches it. She set it 40 meters down the range herself. I fired once. The slab didn't spark or crack along an edge the way alloy does when it's merely damaged. It opened. Clean entry, clean exit, a hole you could put your fist through, the kind of hole that means the round never noticed the alloy was there to argue with it. Nobody said anything for a while. The recorder finally moved, which told me he'd been told not to record reactions and had just done it anyway. Threll walked to the slab and looked through the hole like she expected it to close. Then she came back and asked for the 3 original serials again, slower this time, and matched them against her own ledger, right there on the floor, out loud, like she needed to hear herself confirm it. 2 retreats, 2 years apart, 2 different units of her own army, both formally closed out as inert. She'd signed off on closures like these herself, probably. Maybe not these exact ones, but the same kind, the same doctrine, the same quiet confidence that a broken thing, broken correctly, stays broken. This isn't repair, she said, not a question. I told her no. Repair assumes you're trying to bring one thing back to what it was. I wasn't doing that. I was reading 3 ruined things closely enough to find out which parts of each one had simply been overlooked by the damage, and trading those parts around until the overlooked pieces added up to a whole. The wreck doesn't have to survive. It just has to have one organ left, that the scour pattern, the fracture point, the burst core, didn't quite finish off. Somewhere in 3 dead things there is almost always one whole live thing, if you're willing to take it slow, and you're not in a hurry to call it finished. She asked how long it would take to teach someone else to do it. I said that wasn't really the question she wanted to ask, and she didn't disagree. What she wanted to ask, and what her report would end up saying in language drier than this, was something closer to, if rendering doesn't end a weapon, only ends a unit, then every battlefield her side ever walks away from is not a closed account. It's inventory. Every retreat that leaves materiel behind, however carefully broken, becomes a deposit in a bank her own doctrine insists doesn't exist. A bank that pays out slowly, 3 or 4 corpses at a time, into one functioning gun, on a schedule nobody on her side controls, and nobody on ours has any reason to advertise. Her whole supply doctrine was built to choke an enemy by cutting the line back to the factory. It assumes the enemy needs a factory. We don't have one. And it turns out we never needed one, because she'd been leaving us factories the whole time, and just calling them junk. She didn't say any of that to me directly. She said it would be noted, which on her side means something has frightened someone enough that they want the frightening on the record before they leave the room. The team packed up faster than they'd arrived. Threll paused at the gate, looked back once at the rack, maybe at the 3 empty slots, maybe at the slab with the hole in it still sitting on the range, and asked if we kept records of which serials we'd combined. I told her we did. I offered to send her a copy. She said that wouldn't be necessary, which I understood. Some reports are easier to write if you can say, truthfully, that you never looked too closely. After they were gone, I went back to the bench and logged the cannon under a new serial, the way I log all of them, and wrote 1 line under notes, because the logbook is the only place I ever say anything close to what I actually feel about a day's work. It read, "Thank engineering for the parts." Then I shelved the cannon with the others, and went to see what else had come in.